Hello, my friend. I'm so excited to dive into this week's podcast episode for you on this week's astrology. Oh my goodness. This is going to be quite a month. In this week's episode, I'll be diving deep into the Astrology of August. I will then share the transits of this week and what to expect with this week's energy. I will also be sharing why your joy is so important in your career and what you can look at in your birth chart based on this. I will then end off this podcast episode with a tarot reading of what energy to embrace, what energy to let go of. So let's just dive right into it. Starting off with the Astrology of August. We're still in a Mercury retrograde in Leo. So things can still feel a little bit spicy, a bit more dramatic. Keep this in mind. We're in this Mercury retrograde until August 11th. If you haven't watched your VIP horoscopes, go check those out. Those are super juicy. Those give such a good overview on what to expect with this Mercury retrograde. I'll leave a link to that down below in case you want that full overview. So I'm really loving August's astrology. I think there's some really lovely moments of this month. And yes, even though we're still in a Mercury retrograde, we still have a few planets retrograde, this is still such a powerful month to get set in terms of what you want to become in terms of your identity with this Mercury retrograde in Leo. What does that look like for you? How are you seeing yourself? This is going to be a huge theme for you throughout Leo season. Now, starting off with the transits of August. We start off with Mars entering the sign of Libra on August 6th. This is going to change how we work and date. I'll dive deeper into this during that week. Yet with Mars in Libra, I will say it's a bit uncomfortable traditionally in the sign of Libra, meaning that this can feel like some people are a bit more wishy-washy. It could feel like if you're dating, yes, people are flirty. Yes, this is still a very charming energy. However, it's going to be a little bit harder for people to be more assertive and make a decision. So keep this in mind, especially for dating and work-wise. To kind of combat this in terms of work, I highly recommend teaming up with someone. Having some type of partnership, maybe that is getting on weekly calls with someone to get things done. Maybe that is setting up team meetings in your company. Maybe that's joining a community to have just that support in terms of following through with your goals. That's going to be really helpful with this energy. We then have a full moon in Aquarius on August 9th. Now, this full moon in Aquarius, I have to tell you, can feel very uncomfortable. We have Mars opposing Saturn this day, and this just feels very intense. We do still have some lovely support in the full moon in Aquarius chart. I'll dive deeper into that for you next week. However, I want to give you a heads up that with this Mars to Saturn opposition and Mars to Neptune opposition in the full moon chart, this feels like we have a confrontation with someone. Now, you still have some very lovely support in terms of going through with potentially your goals, potentially with taking action around a relationship, yet you could feel as though you're met with some restrictions, you're met with some boundaries, you're met with these delays. And this also makes sense. We're still in this Mercury retrograde. But I also want to say that a lot can come out during this full moon in Aquarius, and people are going to get angry. This might be a really powerful full moon to go to a protest, to get angry, to stand up for your beliefs, to fight for a free Palestine, to really stand up to ICE in whatever that may be. Maybe that is, sharing some messages, calling your officials, calling people in power, doing whatever you can, because this is a very powerful full moon in Aquarius. So I want to give you a heads up on that. We still have some very lovely transits, however, throughout the month that can really support us. So after this full moon, we have Mercury stationing direct on August 11th. This is going to be really helpful because, yes, did we have some miscommunication throughout Mercury retrograde? Yes, for sure. Was it necessary? Was it helpful? I would also say yes, because sometimes we need to take a step back in order to get clear on what we need to do to move forward. Sometimes we need to clarify something with someone. Sometimes we need to have some discussions with people around what is actually happening beneath the surface. So I do think after Mercury turns direct, things are going to get a little bit easier in terms of moving forward with your goals, with your plans. Now, one of my favorite transits of this year is happening on August 12th, and that is Jupiter conjunct Venus in the sign of Cancer. This is a transit a lot of astrologers have been waiting for. This is such a beautiful, beautiful energy with the benefics just meeting up in the sky. And this feels like some good news. So on August 12th, may this be a few days before, a few days afterwards, this might feel as though there's some type of opportunity that is being presented to you, depending on where this is hitting your chart. Now, this is such a lovely, lovely transit with Venus meeting up with Jupiter. It just feels as though there's something comforting that we're hearing. And because it's in the sign of Cancer, I will say this could feel like, okay, I needed this reassurance in terms of feeling more safe, feeling more comforted, feeling more emotionally secure, or it could just be a feeling of emotional fulfillment. Maybe you completed something and someone's recognizing it, or perhaps you are just feeling really uplifted about your home life or a family situation or potentially a living situation. These are all possibilities. This will look differently depending on where this is hitting your chart. And if you want to dive deeper into what this means for you or your year ahead or potentially your birth chart and your strengths, challenges, life path, I have relaunched my birth chart readings for August. So if you would like a spot for me to dive deep into your birth chart with you, I have 2 spots for August. I'm happy to look at your chart. I'll leave a link to that down below if you want a session with me. Now moving on to August 22nd. Virgo season begins, and this is going to really shift the collective energy. I always see Virgo season as back to school season. I feel like this season really wants us to get organized. I feel like Virgo season wants you to take care of your health, to really set out more intentions and plans for the rest of the year. This is such a great energy to study in a more in-depth way. This is such a great energy to take care of your body in a new way. So I really feel like Virgo season is going to ground us, and that's going to be super, super helpful depending on what goals you have for the rest of the year. Now on August 23rd, we have a shocking new moon in Virgo. I do want to give you a heads up that we have 2 new moons in Virgo this year. One is going to be a solar eclipse in September, yet this new moon in Virgo is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable in terms of getting some surprising information. I'm going to give you a heads up on that. I'll be diving a lot deeper into the new moon in Virgo chart for you during that week, so stay tuned for that. Yet this is going to be a new beginning for you in one area of your life. We then end off the month on August 25th with Venus entering Leo, and this is going to really shift what we value collectively. In the sign of Leo, Venus wants us to really have some more fun, have some more playfulness, really connect to your inner child, even more so. I know we've been talking a lot about that during Leo season, but this is going to be a time when you're going to really prioritize yourself and also being generous with the people around you. Venus in Leo wants you to showcase your talents. Venus in Leo wants you to connect with people, and this is going to feel very warm in terms of relationships. This can feel like someone's admiring you in a relationship or wanting to shower you with a lot of affection. So this is a very, very fun energy, I would say, for our relationships, and just a very playful energy at that. Now, those are the major transits for August. I still think this is going to be such a beautiful month for you. Now let's get into the transits of this week. Starting off with July 28th, we have Venus in Gemini sextile to Chiron in Aries. This feels super, super healing. This day can feel like you have a conversation with a friend or a sibling, and you're speaking more on some old wounds that used to hurt you, especially around your sense of worthiness. Yet your friends are really supporting you this day. Perhaps a friend calls you up and you have a very heartfelt conversation. It just feels as though you are feeling seen, you're feeling heard, you're feeling validated, and this is really helping you in terms of progressing forward. This also just feels as though you're seeing yourself in a new light based on the interactions you're having, the conversations you're having. May this be from a friend or a sibling or even someone in your local community. So honestly, very, very lovely day. Then on July 30th, we have Chiron going retrograde. So Chiron is currently in Aries, and with Chiron going retrograde, this feels like an awakening. This feels as though you're waking up to some old wounds that are still sensitive, that you still need to tend to, especially around being seen, your sense of worthiness, and also how you see yourself and your identity. If you're not feeling worthy of the love you desire or the money you desire, things can happen this day where you're realizing, okay, I thought I've done a lot of inner work, yet this is the day where you're going to get more of this reality check of there's still some work to be done. Healing is a journey, it's not a destination. Keep this in mind. Don't be hard on yourself for this. We all have triggers coming up. We're always going to have triggers coming up. No one is fully healed. So this day is a bit more sensitive. So I would say to, take it easy this day, treat yourself, really comfort yourself, do something that really helps you in terms of self-care. Now on July 31st, we have Venus entering the sign of Cancer. This looks very, very lovely. With Venus in Cancer, this is more sentimental. Our relationships could really focus more on comforting our loved ones. May this be our family, may this be our friends, may this be our romantic partner, may this be our clients. You could just feel as though, okay, I want to be a bit more sentimental, I want to be more nostalgic, I want to really dive deeper into the emotions of what's happening with the people closest to me. This feels so, so nourishing. I personally love Venus in Cancer. I think it's a very soul-nourishing transit. It's very empathetic, it's very compassionate, so you could probably feel this shift this day if you are a Libra rising or a Taurus rising. This shifts of Venus, when Venus changes signs, those are going to affect you more. You're going to notice it a lot more. So pay attention to what happens for you this day. Now on the same day, we have a Mercury cazimi happening in the sign of Leo. Mercury is currently retrograde, and this is when Mercury and the Sun meet up in the sky. So this is a day where you could get an epiphany, especially when it comes to how you see yourself, your identity, but also how are you being seen? Are you having conversations around confidence, for example? Do you feel confident in your skin? Do you feel as though you're showing your authentic self to the people closest to you? Do you feel like there's something you need to change in terms of how you view yourself, especially when it comes to how other people perceive you and how you view yourself? Like, is there a gap when it comes to this? Or are you around a certain group of friends that are uplifting you, that are there for you? And is it a change in terms of your environment that you might get clarity on in terms of this? Now, I really see this day as more so this connection to what is identity to you. Are you being the person you want to be? This is a very reflective day, so I think you're going to make some conclusions or just get some insights as to how you want to show up for yourself moving forward. So again, very, very helpful. I do think a past memory could come up for you around how you see yourself, and that's going to give you that epiphany or that insight, especially because Mercury is retrograde. Now on August 1st, we have Venus in Cancer squaring Neptune in Aries and also Saturn in Aries. This feels a bit uncomfortable, not gonna lie. This feels like our values are in question. You could feel as though you want to be there for a family member, or you want to be there and comfort someone, but it is blocked in a certain way where you could feel like you need to set personal boundaries as to how much you can do and overgive, right? So this is a day where you could feel like you want to tend to be there for someone in your community, a family member, a friend. You want to be empathetic, you want to be compassionate. But there's something here where you could feel like if you do so, it's you kind of overgiving, or you could be in a place where you need to tend to your own boundaries and what you need for yourself. Are you giving that same energy to yourself? This could also feel confusing as to where this boundary is with this aspect to Neptune. So this feels like a day where you could also be a bit confused in terms of your finances. You could feel like you're not really understanding, if you have a certain budget. It could feel a bit harder to calculate numbers this day. So I want to give you a heads up on that. It could also just feel like you are restricting yourself, or you feel restricted in terms of the things you want to be doing. This could also feel like a certain relationship that you're butting heads with, or you're trying to be there for, yet there is something here where you're not seeing eye to eye. Keep this in mind. However, the best way to transmute this energy is really understanding in terms of your values. How do you need to change your boundaries? What does that look like to you? Do you need to set different boundaries based on specific people? Do you need to kind of think about, okay, how can I approach a relationship in a different way moving forward? This is a good day to kind of contemplate this. So those are the major transits of this week. I am super excited to see what happens for you. Again, this is going to be such a nostalgic week. This is going to be such a sentimental week. Yes, a little bit confusing at the end of the week, a bit more sensitive with Chiron going retrograde. Yet, honestly, I think this is going to really set us up in terms of understanding what we need for ourselves, especially moving further into Leo season and further into this Mercury retrograde at the beginning of August. Now, in this week's episode, I want to dive into why your joy is important for your career and what to really look at in your birth chart based on this. Now, I want to share a bit more of my personal journey through this and what has helped me in terms of moving forward, and also what I've seen in my own birth chart and what I need to change based on this so that I can become happier and healthier and just live more in my joy, which was always difficult for me. Now, when it comes to joy, I think it's super, super interesting. So in our birth charts, when we look at joy, I would first look at the fifth house, because the fifth house is going to tell you, how do you have fun? How do you express yourself? How do you seek that enjoyment in life? Now, for myself, I have Saturn in Aquarius in my fifth house, and people with Saturn in the fifth house can feel like it's a bit harder to fully feel with their body that joy, that pleasure, that, just having fun for a day, not having to think about a plan, not having to think about what to do to actually feel that joy. Yet if you have Saturn in the 5th house, it could feel like it's a bit trickier for you to fully feel that joy. It could feel like you need to plan ahead to actually have fun, to actually feel like you can enjoy your life. So keep this in mind. I know for myself, it's funny, when I first was studying astrology and I was talking to my mentors and I was reading a bunch of astrology books, a lot of people and older astrologers have said that Saturn in the 5th house is one of the harder placements to have Saturn, because you need your joy to kind of activate other parts of yourself. You need your joy to just feel happier. So to have Saturn there, there's this restriction where you could feel like maybe a parent, for example, or an authority figure didn't let you fully have fun, or you felt guilty for having fun growing up. You felt like, okay, if I work harder, then maybe later on I can feel happy. If I just focus on work now, if I just focus on what I need to get done now, I can have that happiness later on. You're trying to save your happiness for a later date. And that is really hard, okay? That is not how joy works. I want to be really upfront with you because I've tried that. It doesn't work that way. With Saturn in the 5th house, you have to kind of realize, actually, you can just feel your joy now. And this is true for anyone. You can just feel happy now. You can just have that joy now. And I know this can be very difficult for people who have certain placements. And for myself, it was kind of learning more about my birth chart when I started to realize, oh, I have quite a few planets in fall or detriment. And that is why things feel more challenging and difficult in this area. So to be fully honest with you and real, I grew up with depression. It was something that slowly creeped up as I started to age. And this depression that I was feeling made me feel like I didn't have hope, or it just made me feel like I couldn't fully be myself. I couldn't fully express myself. I felt like I was rejected for who I was. I have a 12th house stellium. So if you have 12th house placements, it could feel like you're not really being seen for who you are. It could feel, this is also true for the 8th house in a different way. Yet for myself, it was realizing, okay, what do I do with this depression? I felt like there's this darkness that I couldn't get over. Everyone was so pessimistic around me. My family was very, very pessimistic, and still is, that I have to kind of be aware of. But for myself, it was realizing, okay, is this something caused by my environment? Or is this something that I was born with? And, you know, there's always this nurtured nature debate when it comes to this. And I do think we have certain things passed down to us genetically. Yet, when we look at our birth charts, there's a certain journey that your soul decided to go through this lifetime. So the way I kind of make out, why did I have to experience that depression growing up? I would say that my depression was there when I was maybe around 8 or 9, yet after my father passed away when I was 11, that's when it started to become full blown. And for myself, my father was my favorite person in my life. He was so comforting to me. He was someone who really saw me for who I was. He was someone who really encouraged me to pursue art, to be creative, to do things my own way. And I really loved him for that. I think it was the energy I really, really needed growing up. So I'm very, very blessed and honored that I got to see him for a few years. Yet for him, he was also not in a good state. His death was very shocking and unexpected. And looking at my birth chart now, when I started to really sink deeper into my depression after his death, I started to feel as though I was trapped. I started to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be seen or loved in the same way anymore. And I honestly feel like, based on your birth chart, you've chosen a certain timeline, which I know that not everyone believes that, but there's something your soul wants you to do this lifetime. There's something your soul wants you to learn this lifetime. So me having a really difficult childhood, and I want to say too, I grew up with not a lot of money. My mom and dad were both immigrants that moved here at different times. And it was a really, really difficult upbringing. Yet it wasn't until I moved out of my mom's home that I started to realize the depression was more so an environmental issue. Yes, I was still, mourning and grieving the loss of my father. Yet it was the energy of the environment I grew up in that also made me realize that there's a part of you that is absorbing the energy all around you. May this be your parents, may this be your roommate, may this be who you live with, may this be your friends. We're all made up of energy. Now, in your birth chart, it's looking at which planets are in fall for you, which planets are in detriment, meaning that they're uncomfortable in those signs. For example, I have Venus in Virgo retrograde as my chart ruler. So for me, it feels like I have to work harder in order to receive the love I want. It feels like the natural tendency, my default tendency is me overgiving in a relationship. The default tendency for me is I need to work super, super hard in order to make money. The default tendency is, oh my God, I have to work harder to be loved. I need to be perfect in order to be loved. I need to do this to be loved. And it was so freeing to me to witness this in my birth chart because it made sense of so many things in my life. It was honestly such a mind-blowing experience when I started to realize, oh, this isn't my fault. And, my Cancer moon's getting emotional, but, oh, this isn't my fault. This is the lessons I have to learn throughout my life. And I would say your chart ruler is a very, very important place to look at in your birth chart for this, because that's going to tell you the major, major themes of your life. So for myself, being a Libra rising, having Venus in Virgo retrograde as my chart ruler, a lot of my lessons this lifetime are learning how to make more money in a way that feels good to me, in a way that feels aligned for me, in a way that makes me feel like I'm helping someone, that I can be there for someone, but also relationships and dating and not overgiving in a relationship, which is my past family patterns, which is also seen with your North and South node, specifically your South node. But looking at this in your birth chart can help you understand, oh my God, this is why this is so hard. This is why. And then it's understanding how to actually work with that energy and transmute it into the strengths of that placement. Because let me tell you, it took me a few years to fully embrace my Venus in Virgo retrograde chart ruler. Quite a few years. For myself, this was me really learning and reminding myself I'm good enough to receive the love I'm craving. I'm good enough to receive the money I want to earn. I'm good enough to be open to receiving. And the really good thing about Venus and Virgo is being discerning with your energy. Venus in Virgo is very giving. Now, the dark side of this is being self-sacrificing, wanting to give so much, and also being a bit of a martyr. So you have to kind of watch out for the dark side of all of your placements, because that can be something that kind of takes place if you're not careful, if you're not self-aware, and you're in a dark place. So for me, when I'm in a dark place, quite a few years ago, luckily I haven't been in that place in quite some time, which I'm so grateful for. But for me, it was playing the victim. Like, oh, I'm a victim of my circumstance, right? Yet me learning astrology, me understanding and learning, these are the lessons my soul had to go through. This is what I'm here to do this lifetime. This is what I need to focus on to kind of change this energy to my advantage. That's when you can free yourself, because you are always the creator of your reality. You always have a choice in how you interpret a birth chart. And for myself, learning astrology gave me the power of understanding, actually, I really love my Venus in Virgo retrograde chart ruler. And I love it even more now after I noticed a lot of my mentors and other astrologers have planets in fall or detriment or in difficult aspects, because it shows me the most difficult thing that you're experiencing this lifetime can actually be used to your advantage and can actually be a superpower. Yet, of course, if you're still in that pain, if you're still feeling that pain, it's going to be harder to see that, like during that time. Like if you told me this, while I was going through my depression years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I don't know if I would have fully trusted you at that time. I really had to get through that era of my life for myself. What really helped me the most was really speaking positive affirmations of what I would rather believe. So for myself, it was reminding myself, things are going to get so much better for you. Things are going to get so much better for you. And just repeating that over and over and over and over again, that's what got me through some really difficult times. This is also why I created free overnight affirmations. If you want help reprogramming your subconscious mind as you sleep, that is when your mind is super susceptible to new information, to new belief systems. So for myself, it's been super helpful for me to really feel more abundant, to feel more loved, based on the story I was telling myself. Now, if you want help in understanding the most difficult parts of your birth chart, the dark sides of each of the planets, and how to actually use this to your advantage to really focus on the positive, to really focus on the benefits of those planets in fall or detriment, what this means, how to really see that in your birth chart. I go through this very in depth in my Astrology Foundations course, Seen Secrets. This is one of my most life-changing courses. This is for you if you want to learn astrology and have the skill set for the rest of your life. This is for you if you want to understand some complex astrological techniques and how to use this in terms of interpreting birth charts. May this be your own birth chart, or even friends and family, or eventually launching your own astrology practice. I'll leave a link to that down below in case you're interested in learning astrology. And honestly, I am super proud of my students from this course. They feel so much more confident in terms of reading their birth chart, in terms of reading other people's birth charts. People are telling them to charge for their services because they've gotten so good at giving readings. Now, I know I mentioned the joy aspect to your birth chart and what to look at in terms of the 5th house. Yet the reason why this is so important for your career, as I wrap up this topic, is because your joy is powerful. The more you're focused on what feels fun for you, what is play for you, the more you get into flow state, the more it's easier to do the work you love. And what's also interesting in terms of your birth chart is the 5th house is not only a house of pleasure and joy, It's also the house of entrepreneurship. This is huge if you're a business owner, right? So those are connected, those are intertwined. Your joy is so powerful and it's so needed in this world. Remind yourself you don't have to wait till later to feel your joy. You can feel joy now. Look at the 5th house for yourself to see what would actually feel fun for you. What is different and exciting that you can do for yourself to really bring out that joy. And if you have Saturn there, maybe it's planning ahead and scheduling something for fun, or planning a day to hang out with a friend, or joining the Moon Sign Creative Community for our rituals every month, because that is dedicated for your joy, that is dedicated for your magic and manifesting what you truly want to call into your life. So I really hope this topic helped you in terms of understanding your birth chart and why you could feel like it's harder to feel joy, what to do in terms of shifting that perspective in terms of the placements of your chart and what to focus on. Now let's get into your tarot reading for this month. The first card out is the Knight of Wands reverse. So you could feel as though you want to take action, you want it to be passionate, you want to put yourself out there, yet it's feeling a bit frustrating. You could feel like you're not feeling as excited as you wish you were. You could feel as though you're less confident than you wish you were. This makes sense with the Mercury retrograde in Leo. Yet this is a card for you to really look within and see if you can give yourself that validation. May this be affirming to yourself, I've got this. I'm in a good place. I'm on the right track. Remind yourself of this. This is a card where you might need to spend some time really reflecting on how to hype yourself up, how to validate yourself, how to give yourself that reassurance you're craving and wanting. The next card out is the 6 of Cups. Honestly, this is the perfect card for Venus entering the sign of Cancer. This is so sweet. This is nourishing. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck. This is a card where you can prioritize connecting to more of your sweet side this week and also this month. This is a card of nostalgia. See what your inner child would really want you to do right now. May this be, going to the beach or spending some time with your labubus. Or maybe this is you really focused on cultivating a better self-dialogue to yourself and reminding yourself you've got this. This is a card where you could connect with someone in a very compassionate, empathetic way. So I do see us having some very lovely interactions this month. Be aware of this. The next card out is the Ace of Cups reverse. Okay, so you could feel like someone's withholding love from you, or you could feel as though someone's not fully expressing their love that you wish they were. Remind yourself to give yourself that love and compassion you're craving. May this be, feeling your feelings first, because you could be blocking this new emotional beginning for yourself. You could be blocking something where you want to fully feel things in depth, but it's not happening yet. So this is a card where it's asking you, where are you withholding something from yourself? Where are you withholding your joy from yourself? Where are you feeling like you're not worthy of it? Sometimes we could feel this with so much chaos happening in the world, yet it's reminding yourself that things can happen and take place at the same time. You could still feel this pain and hurt for what's happening for the world, but you could also still feel joy for what's happening for you. Joy is part of the movement. We need joy. We need joy moving forward. So remind yourself of this. I asked us what the block is. We got the King of Swords. So there could be someone a bit cold. You could feel like you need to set a boundary with someone, or you could just feel like there's just some tension with someone here. This feels a bit frustrating. It feels as though you're being restricted, and that's not fun. Yet, This is also helpful because maybe there's something here where you need to get very, very clear on your next steps or which conversations you're having with certain people. That's going to help you move forward. I asked what would help us overcome this. We got the Fool card. This is a fresh new start, a fresh new beginning. So what can you do that's very different this week to change up your energy? May this be going to a new cafe. May this be going and walking a different route that you usually take to work. May this be starting something new that isn't super, super intense or daunting. This is a card where you're seeking a fresh start, and whatever you can do to bring up that energy right now and feel that energy right now, that's going to help you move forward. I love this. And then we also got finding balance, right? So things can still feel a bit, sensitive, a bit wobbly. We're in this Mercury retrograde, so give yourself some time, give yourself some grace, see where you can give yourself balance in terms of how much you're seeing people and how much you're resting, for example. Give yourself that balance. You also got you already are. So if you keep thinking, I have to reach this certain point to be my favorite person, or I have to do this thing to be my higher self, how can you see that you already are everything you ever wanted? How can you just go back and go to the core root of who you are and remind yourself of who you are? There's only one of you, and that's a gift. Remind yourself of this. You also got coming together, so I do think we're gonna make some really good, valuable connections this month. I think we're gonna have some really good conversations with people. I think this is gonna be a very loving month as well. Yes, there will be some confrontations. Yes, communication is still a bit tricky until the 11th, yet this is a really lovely reminder that you have more support than you think, and this is the time to connect with people. Really see how you can grow your community. So I really hope this helped, friend. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out. If you've watched to the end of the video, please comment waterfalls. I'd love to see that. I love seeing how far you get on these podcast episodes. It really brings a smile to my face, and it helps me see that I should make more of these podcast episodes. So thank you for that. And if you'd like a private session with me, I just have some limited spots for solar return birthday readings and birth chart readings for this month. If you would like to learn astrology and dive really deep into your birth chart, the complexities of it, and how to really enrich your relationships and career based on your birth chart, check out my Astrology Foundations course, Seen Secrets. I'll leave a link to that down below. Go check out the testimonials. My clients have gotten such mind-blowing results from our sessions together. I've had clients who've gotten 50K more in income that year after a session with me. I've had clients who've gotten engaged and married after a session with me because they learned what to focus on in terms of their relationships to attract their person in. I have clients who've left toxic relationships and gotten into much healthier relationships. I've had clients who've changed careers, also launched their astrology practices. There have been such amazing life-changing results from using your birth chart and really diving deep into it. So if you want that help and support, check out my links down below. I'm happy to help you through this journey. And thank you so much for watching, friend. I'm sending you so much love. Happy August. And just remember, the universe has your back. And peace and love. Take care.